Managing multiple projects is a difficult task when you want to maintain the consistency of the build process across your projects. Let's see how we can use Maven to solve those problems. Let's get started. As you guys know, Maven is a project management tool that is used by lots of developers to complete a build lifecycle, because Maven provides a framework with which you can automatically provide plug and play stuff for maintaining your build process across your projects. Let's see what are the different features of Maven before getting into a background of how a Maven works. Right? So Maven provides something called as the model based development or the model based builds. So Maven can build the jars, vars, or it can create a metadata out of the project. Okay, if you want to build a Python project, you can have the Python plugins and create some Python packages. If you are using a Java project, you can create jars or vars depending on what type of project it is. So that is one of the feature of Maven. The other part is the release management, where you can create a release and then upload that into a distribution system or a Maven repository or a repository where people can take in from. So Maven can do that. So it can do the release management and the release distribution and the publication part as well. Along with that, it can maintain the dependencies. So as a single point of control, Maven can control the dependencies of your project. So you don't have to package the jars or the dependent vars or the jars into your project. Those will be used at the build time. So your repository or the code base size will be reduced compared to storing everything into your project. So Maven can help in downloading these dependencies and managing those dependencies at the build time, right? Maven also provides something called plugin development, where you can create multiple plugins and plug those into the project and use them based on the tasks whenever you need it. So for example, if you want to push some package onto your host, you can do that as a part of a plugin itself. So there could be a task, for example your post build process. So after the it is executed, after the package is completed, you can create plugins to trigger the task after the plugin or the package is completed for the particular project. So you can trigger the plugin after the package got created, and then you can push that onto the remote machine or something like that. So with the plugins, you can create whatever you want. There are lots of plugins. We will see whatever is useful in the coming videos. But yeah, know that you can create multiple plugins and then you can plug and play inside the Maven project. Okay, there is something called auto parent versioning. So you can have you don't have to mention the parent name inside the child modules. So if you have the parent project and you mention all the child, that will be grouped under the parent. So that is the auto parent versioning. So you don't have to if let's say you have to stamp a version number across the parent modules to the child modules, you don't have to manually enter that. You can have plugins, and Maven will automatically go and change the version number from the parent till the child. So it can automatically do that. So Maven does that automatically for you. So that is why it's called auto parent versioning. So you can have versions appended automatically, right? The other process is the as we saw, the consistent build process. So when you create a single Maven process, you can use the same Maven process for every repository which you use. So you will have a consistent build process for all your projects under your team or your group, right? So Maven also uses convention over configuration, so which basically means that you don't have to create the build process yourself. Maven provides lots of build life cycles. You can use them. So for example, these are the different life cycles which we have. So I'll cover the life cycles in a separate video, but understand that as a part of the life cycle, you can do lots of stuff. So you don't have to create those life cycles or the tasks yourself. Those tasks are created by Maven automatically, and those tasks run in a sequence or run in a particular order. But you can use those tasks and leverage them to do some particular task on your own if you want to do something extra, right? So that is Maven. So Maven is used for creating project. So you use Maven to build your project. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a Maven project using Intellij, and let's see how does it look like, right? So I'm going to create a new project. I'm not going to create anything out of the box here. So I'm going to click on the Maven option in Intellij here, and I'm selecting the SDK as 1.8. okay, I'm going to use Java 1.8, and there is something called archetype. So archetypes are where you have predefined folder structures or the skeletons given by Maven itself. So when you run this particular archetype, it is going to create a package with the folder structure with the necessary files inbuilt. You don't have to do anything on your own, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if there are any Maven simple archetype which we can leverage and create a simple project for us, right? So let me see, there is something called Maven archetype web app, or I can do a web app as well. So let's create this particular web app, right? So I'm going to click on the next button. Okay, there is something called group ID, artifact ID, and version number here. So group ID is nothing but the organization which or the group which you are a part of. For example, com tech primers is my organization or a group, right? And artifact ID is the library which you want to create. So for example, I'm going to say Maven example, right? So this is the artifact ID or the project which you're going to create under the organization called com.techprimers, right? I'm going to click the next option. So this is going to give me the option for the Maven version. So there are different Maven versions, the Maven home. I'm going to use the Maven 3 itself, so I'm not going to do anything else, and it uses something called settings.xml, and there is something called repository. So repository is where Maven is going to download all the dependencies which we saw, right? The dependencies for the project, and it is going to store those dependencies into this repository. So this repository is going to host all the jars which we require or the packages which we require for the project into this particular folder. So this is a local repository. There could be a remote repository from where it will be downloaded. So that will be mentioned in the settings.xml. So settings.xml will have the remote repository location details where you can use it for dependency management downloading and also the release distribution. So whenever you want to distribute some jars onto a remote repository, those repository information will be present in the settings.xml, or you can even overwrite it in your project itself. But by default, they are present in the settings.xml, right? And local repository is where all the remote dependencies are downloaded and kept for faster access when the project gets built, right? So every time you run Maven, it will download and keep it in the local repository. You can clean up the local repository depending on your usage, right? And if you notice here, these are the different properties which Maven is going to use, right? I'm going to click on the next button. So I'm going to give the project name as Maven-example just to be precise, right? So this is going to run the Maven archetype in the background, and Maven is going to create a project. So the Maven archetype is going to create a project, and that is what it has done. Let's see what it is doing, right? So, and if you notice here, it has already triggered the Maven build option. So this is nothing but Maven. What is the command here? Yeah, it is doing a Maven generate, right? So this is the task which is going to generate the Maven project. So the archetype which we have created is the web app. So this is going to create a project of structure which is equivalent to a web application, right? Let me maximize this. Okay, let the Maven archetype complete, right? So meanwhile, if you notice, Intellij identifies that this is a Maven project, and it automatically opens up this option called the Maven project window. Okay, and this shows up what are the different life cycles and the plugins which this particular project has, right? So yeah, the project is ready now. Let me click on the import changes and let's go and see what are the different files which got created. The .idea folder is the file folder for the Intellij to be used. So it has created source main resources, and there is a web app folder with some default package. So since this is a web application, it has created the web app folder. If it was a simple Java application, it would have just created a Java folder. So if you want to create Java files, you can go and create them under this particular folder. So you can create a directly called Java right? And I can just go ahead and create a file called hello world.java without any package, right? If you want to create a package, you can do that. And let me go and modify the project structure so that this particular project identifies that these are sources, right? Yeah, so what I'll do, I'll go here, I'll just mention this as a source. This resources automatically identified. Okay, so now my Java project has got identified, right? And if you notice here, there is one more file called java example.iml. This is a file generated by Intellij for its reference. So we can ignore that. Don't comment this file. It is something similar to the dot eclipse class path file which gets created in Eclipse. So this is the main file which is used by Maven. So it is called the POM.xml. So POM is nothing but project object model, right? So this is the file which Maven is going to understand. So if you want to speak with Maven, then you have to speak via this particular file. So you have to control the whole build process using this POM.xml. So this is the file where you have to modify all the stuff which you want to do it in your project, right? You notice that there is a XML, and this particular file is of type XML, so it is called the pom.xml. So if you notice here, the file name is pom.xml and it is present in the root directory. This is a single module project, so I am having only one pom. If you have a multi-module project, you can have multiple folders in here and each module will have a pom.xml. So that way Maven identifies that this particular project is a multi-module project. And Intellij, if you notice here, it has identified automatically that there is a Maven project in this particular folder, and it has identified what are the different life cycles which are there. You can run them directly from here. It has also identified what is the dependency which is present here. So if you notice here, there is one dependency but currently present, which is the JUnit. So let's go through the pom.xml, right? So pom.xml is basically a XML file where you have to have predefined XML notations mentioned so that Maven can understand them. So for example, it starts with project, and this is a typical Maven pom.xml. So you will have to mention the project here and some different schema locations and XSI locations, which is all like by default present there, right? The next one is the model version. The model version is by default 4.0.0. Okay, so Maven uses that particular version number, so we are going to stick to that particular version number. Group ID, as we saw earlier, is the organization path or the group path which we are under. Artifact ID is the library name with which our project is going to be shipped. And the next one is the packaging. So this particular packaging identifies what type of metadata we are having. So what type of model we are having, either it is a jar, var, or anything else, right? So in this particular case, it's a web app. So we are having var here. The next one is the version number. So by default, I'm having 1.0.snapshot, right? So you can have n number of versions. You can have different versions based on your project or the product releases. So version is going to denote what version of product we are currently hosting here. The next one is the name of the application. This is just the name used by the project when we run the Maven project, and wherever we use the name. So this is just a name which we can give for referencing this particular project. URL is it's just a property. I don't think anybody is using it. It's just by default having the Maven URL. It's not mandatory. The next one is the dependencies. There are two things here. So one is the dependency management, and the other one is the dependencies. So dependency management is something like a what do you call, a parent or a container. Okay, so when you have multi-module projects, your parent can have the dependency management and you can have dependencies here. Under dependencies you can have different dependencies. So for example, JUnit, right, it's one of the dependency, so you can have something like that. And in the this could be in the parent module. So this particular dependency management can be in the parent module, right? And in the child module you can directly use it as dependencies, right? And you can directly use the dependency like this. You don't have to mention the version number here, so I can even remove this. It's just the same. Okay, and I can put all the scope here as well. This is just the JUnit package which is used for the test cases. So I'm having it as scope. The scope is test. So I'll tell you what is a scope. So in a multi-module project, if you have multiple modules with the same version of the packages used across different modules, then you can use dependency management to manage the version number in a single place. If you have a multi-module project, you will have to mention these dependencies in every module. So when you have to have multiple versions, so everywhere you will have to mention the version number, but dependency management solves that problem using this dependency management tag, where you say dependency management, and in the submodules you can use it directly like that without using the dependency management. Same with plugin management. So if you have plugin usage in different modules, you can use the plugin management. So you can directly say plugin management. Right now the plugin management will be inside the build, so I'm going to do to build, and if you notice here the plugin management has come. Inside the plugin management you can have multiple plugins, right? You can have plugin, and then you will have to have the dependencies or the artifacts here, right? So this is how you can have plugins inside the build, right? So inside the dependencies, so there are four things, right? The group ID, artifact ID, version number, scope. So group ID we saw, artifact ID we saw, version number we saw. These are the different version numbers, names, and the artifact IDs and the group IDs of the packages which we are going to use from somebody else's project, right? There is something called scope. The scope can be either compile time, run time, provided, or the test. These are different phases or the different ways we can use this particular dependency in our project. So for example, if it is test, this particular package will be used only for running the tests. So if we have a test module, so in general right now we don't have any test package here, so you can have a test folder, and then you can write test cases there, and this particular dependency will be downloaded only during the test phase of the Maven lifecycle, right? Okay, so that is the scope. The next part is the build. So build is where you mention all your profiles, plugins, and stuff like that. So for example, this final name is what the artifact is going to be created on. So if I say Maven example, this is going to create Maven example.var. So let's try something, right? So let's try packaging this particular project. So I'm going to say clean and package. So clean is going to clean the existing folder structure or the compiled jars, and then it is going to create a package. So if you notice here, there is some failure which says that okay, it's not able to download. This is because the Maven repository is not set up, right? So it's not able to identify where it should download from and stuff like that, right? So Maven repository was cached in local repository. Installation will not be reattempted until the update version. Yeah, because I have given the 5.1 version, I'll use the 4.12 which I already had, right? So let me do the import. And also that 5.1 version had a different artifact ID, I guess. So that could be another problem why the Maven did not download. But I know that 4.12 version works. So this 4.12 should get downloaded. And if you notice here, it has got downloaded and it's proceeding with what it is done, and the build is successful. So let's analyze what is happening here, right? So as a part of the Maven clean package, right? So there is a plugin called Maven clean plugin, which Maven already has it. So we did not mention any plugin here in the POM.xml, but Maven directly used that particular plugin, and it cleaned some project. It did some Maven resource copy using the Maven resource plugin. Then it compiled the project. Then it again did the test resources. Then it did a test compile. Then it did a test. So then finally it did a packaging of the web application, and finally it has created a folder called target. If you notice here, this particular folder has got created newly, and you can see that there are classes. There is a Maven status, Maven example. These are different packages used by Maven, and classes is where our um, files will be there. So if I had created a hello world, if I had created something here, right? If I had created this should have created a hello world.class inside this particular classes package, right? So that will be inside the classes package, and finally the var will be present outside the classes package. and this particular name is coming from the POM.xml entry where we had mentioned that the final name should be Maven example. If you mention some other name, this particular var will be different. If you notice here, if I go to classes, you can see the hello world.class, right? So this is how Maven does it. So these are different default Maven notations where Maven creates a folder called target and it creates classes. If you have test classes, it will create under test classes. So we will see that in the next video, so where I'll explain you the life cycle of Maven, what are the different life cycles inside Maven. But understand that Maven is going to help you in building your project and follow a common stuff across all your projects, right? So this is what Maven is useful for, and I hope you guys understood what is Maven. So Maven is nothing but a build or a process controlling tool which is used for setting up your project and follow some best practices and have some consistent usage across all your projects. So it has the different features like the dependency management, plugin development, auto parent versioning, release management, and the release distribution, and obviously the final thing is the consistent build process across all your projects. Okay, so that is what Maven is useful for. There are different tools available as well, like Gradle. So Gradle is another tool which is similar to Maven. We can see that later, but Maven is the latest one. Sorry, compared to Gradle, Maven is a little bit older. However, if you compare it with Ant, where we used to manually do lots of stuff inside Ant or a Makefile, Maven does lots of things automatically for you with its inbuilt plugin usage. So that is what Maven is useful for. I hope you guys understood what is Maven. In the next video, we will see what are the different life cycles inside Maven, and that's it for this particular video. I hope you guys understood what is Maven. If you have any questions relating to Maven, do drop that in the comment section below. I'll be able to answer that. If you are not a part of the Tech Premise Slack community, do drop me a mail. I'll add you to the Slack community where we do discuss day-to-day issues as well there. Right. I hope you like the video. If you like the video, go ahead and like it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to it. Meet you again in the next video. Thank you very much.